32F, have been with my husband, 33 male, since we were in high school. At the beginning of our relationship, everything was perfect. He was the perfect guy and truly treated me like a princess. I must add that both of our families are extremely religious. My husband and I got married at 21. We later had our daughter Elena when I was 25. When I was 26, my grandmother passed away. We ended up taking on her dog Fido as a way I could stay close to her. 2 years ago, things took a turn. My husband got laid off from his job and struggled to find a new one. Luckily, his parents were wealthy, so they still paid for everything for him. He felt less of a man because he couldn't provide for his family, and he began to become more and more depressed, and that is when his drinking began. Last year, he began to become more and more aggressive with his drinking. He started to do things like punching walls, verbally abusing me, or forcing himself onto me. I tried to talk to our parents about this, but they were in agreement that we said vows and I promised to be there for him in sickness and in health. My parents told me divorce was off the table, and I wouldn't be let into their homes if I did because it was a sin. So for months I put up with his alcoholic behavior because I knew I had nowhere to go, and I always hid his behavior from our daughter, and she idolizes him. Because of all of this, I dealt with it. Even when his abuse turned physical. Last month, Elena was at her friend's house and I was sitting on the porch reading while Fido ran in the lawn. My husband came speeding down the road, swerving while at it. I noticed he wasn't stopping and I immediately stood up. Next thing I know, he lost control of the car and spun into our lawn and hit Fido. My entire world shattered. I ran to Fido's lifeless body crying. My husband fell out of the car drunk, reeking of booze, claiming it was an accident. Neighbors saw and called the police. My next door neighbor ended up grabbing me and took me to the animal hospital. Unfortunately, I felt Fido take his last breath on the way there and he was pronounced dead at the hospital. My husband was arrested. I couldn't believe it. He took the last thing I had left of my grandmother. The next day I contacted a lawyer and filed for divorce. I called and told my parents, in which they ripped me a new one. Saying they understand my hurt. But it's my Christian duty in marriage to help him through this patch. They even said it was just a dog. That was enough for me and I hung up on them and blocked their number. I grabbed my daughter and all of my essentials, and we've been staying at a hotel. My husband was bailed out by his parents a few days later and has been blowing me up since he saw the divorce papers on the table. Family and church members have been blowing up my phone, urging me to not let the devil consume my heart. No matter how much I explain to others how I've tried to get him into rehab or help him, they don't listen. Update 1. Here's the history behind Fido. My grandparents went on their first date to the Lincoln Memorial. My grandmother always loved historical landmarks and statues. Many years later, on their anniversary, my grandpa got her a puppy. He named him Fido in reference to him. For those who don't know, Fido was the name of Abraham Lincoln's dog. So, yeah, kind of romantic. He later passed away a few years later, but Fido became her rock and comfort. To give more context to my family, I grew up in a hypocritical, strict religious household. My father was abusive to my mother. He'd hit her, verbally abuse her and disrespect her all of the time. My parents had the belief that the men are the breadwinners, make all the decisions, and a woman is to support them. My mother was the stereotypical housewife, who never made any decisions on her own. I like to refer to them as selective Christians. Meaning they follow the parts of the Bible that is convenient to them. My parents were homophobic, attended church every Sunday, in the choir, had very strict views on sex before marriage, the regular Christian's beliefs. But yet, my father cheated on my mother twice. Each time my mother took him back. She said it is because we have to forgive if we want to go to heaven. I have an older sister named Abby. When Abby was 17 and I was 15, she got pregnant. My parents disowned her for having sex before marriage and ended up kicking her out of the house. My sister wanted an abortion, but my parents forbade it. My grandmother took her in. She ended up suffering a miscarriage from stress. My grandma was the only sense of reasoning in my family. She always tried to talk my mother into leaving my father, stating the Lord wouldn't want anyone to endure that, but she didn't listen. She shamed my mother for putting her own daughter out and took her in. My sister ended up moving out of state for college, and she never turned back. She only spoke to me, and my grandmother and my parents stopped referring to her as their kid. They called her a sinner and that they're ashamed to be her parents. Honestly, this was more my father speaking, but my mother always backed him up regardless on if she fully agreed. I met my husband in high school. He was the sweetest human you'd ever meet. From his volunteer work, his contributions to the church, to his charm, he was an angel. He always promised me to be different from my father. He gave me a voice, respected and loved me. Fast forward a few years, I'm married, 26 years old, and have Elena. My grandmother passed away after complications from a fall. I was crushed. She was my best friend. She was a mother figure, when my own mother wasn't. I luckily convinced my mom to let me take Fido. Having Fido felt like I had both of my grandparents with me in a sense. Fido was my grandmother's pride and joy, and he quickly became ours too. My husband loved Fido. They were the best of friends. He took Fido everywhere he went. We referred to him as our second child. When the drinking started, it was hard. I tried for months to talk to him. I begged him to seek alternatives. I even tried to get him to work for his dad, but he declined. He felt like he was failing as a husband because he couldn't provide. All of his siblings and peers as well-paying jobs and lived more extravagant lifestyles, but we couldn't. I tried to tell him I didn't care about that, but he didn't listen. I own my own photography business. I offered to have it be a joint business venture, but he declined. Months and months went on and the aggressiveness started. When he was drinking, anything I did annoyed him. If I cooked the wrong meal, did something too loudly, or even existed, it annoyed him. He'd go into a rage. He'd punch walls, throw things, hit me, or verbally abuse me. I always knew the signs for when he was about to start. I always made sure that Elena was secluded from it. I'd play her TV loudly, give her headphones, or send her to the neighbors to play with their daughter. She idolized her father. And I never wanted her to experience what I experienced growing up. But after reading some of your comments, you guys made me realize she might have noticed more than I thought. He'd always apologize when he sobered up, stating he was stressed, and he'll change. I was weak. I still am. I was raised to not have a voice, and honestly, I was depending on him. He might not have worked, but his parents paid for our house and bills. But those quickly only became words. I had to start to wear long sleeves and makeup to hide my bruises. I first confided in my mother about this. She told me that our duty as wives is to be there for our husbands in their dark times. We took an oath in our vows, and we must stay true to it. I talked to his parents, and they said that I need to pray and let God heal his heart and wounds. They did try to talk to him, but he'd always get angry at them, and they backed off. I went from family member to church members wanting help. No one would listen. Like seriously, everyone treated this like it was normal. Few did speak out, but it never went far. When my sister found out, she was furious. She urged me to move with her and start over. Escape from my husband and the toxicity of the church and parents. I wanted to, but I was scared. I mean, Elena still loves her father, and he never showed her any aggression. And she loves her grandparents. They're better grandparents than they are parents. She tried for months, even confronting my husband, but I wouldn't listen. My husband made me block her, stating because she's an atheist, she's the devil trying to divide us. I begged him for months to go to rehab. I offered to go together. I begged and begged, but he insisted he didn't need it and he'd stop. I just continued to endure, more and more. I knew I was near my end when he started coming home drunk and force intimacy on me. I was so numb to the abuse that I just let it happen. That's all I will say regarding this, as it's still so hard to speak on that. I started saving my photography money slowly. I wanted to have enough for if I decided I wanted to turn my back on everything, I could. I got the divorce papers drafted a few weeks before Fido's death. All I wanted was full custody. He could have everything else. The house, the cars, joint bank accounts, all of it. They were all his anyways. I hid the papers in my nightstand for when I felt like I finally had the courage to hand them to him. But I now regret this decision. This last month or so was a roller coaster. I thought we had a come to Jesus moment, when he missed Elena's first cheerleading game. He was too drunk to even walk to come. He saw the disappointment in her face and said he had to get better, for her. I believed him. He still denied going to rehab, stating he could stop on his own. He stopped for all of 1 week. And the old habits picked back up. Then the day everything happened. He killed Fido. I have been floored. He died right in my arms. It's as if I lost Fido and both my grandparents all over again. I had enough. He was arrested shortly after. I spent the whole night crying. I had to explain to Elena what happened. And boy, is this girl strong. I felt like she was the parent for the way she comforted me. I cried myself to sleep. The next day I told everyone who called to check on me, I was divorcing him, and that's when the comments that I mentioned in the first post happened. I called my sister, who was the only person to comfort me. I didn't have any friends, I was always socially awkward. She's all I have outside of my daughter. When my parents yelled at me the comment of Fido being just a dog, that was enough. That's when I called my lawyer and told him I was going through with the divorce. I blocked my parents and his family. I left the papers, grabbed the essentials and left for the hotel. His parents bailed him out and he went home and saw the papers. That is when the texting and calls began. I finally picked up that night after I got Elena to bed and answered to him sobbing. He apologized over and over about Fido, saying it was an accident and he'd never do that on purpose. He said for real this time he's done, and he'll go to rehab. He promised therapy and to never do anything to hurt me again. Now I know what you all are thinking, it's BS. But I know this man. I know when he's telling the truth, and he is. I feel like he finally had his come to Jesus moment. But is it bad that I feel it's too late? I told him I needed time and hung up. It's been non-stop of the texts and calls. That's why I came to Reddit. It was more me needing a vent more than anything. And boy did you all make me feel supported. First comment I saw was that could have been your daughter he hit while she played in the yard. That made my heart sink. I'm afraid that he could relapse at any moment. I know it's a part of my religion to forgive, but I don't know if I can. Here's the update of so far. I've been talking to my sister. She's working with her husband to come get us. Her husband will take me to the home to get the rest of my things. Her husband is 6 feet 7 inches and 300 pounds, so my husband has always feared him a bit, so I don't think we'll have any problems. Elena is taking this all so well. I plan on having a conversation with her about the length of what's happening when we're settled. Right now, I'm lost. I was with that man since I was 17. 15 years, you guys. He saw me at my weakest moments, and I knew the man he was. This hurts. That's the part that hurts more than the death. Right now, I'm not ready to talk to him or my family. I just need space. And for all of you that are saying this is fake, what do you want from me? You want pictures of my bruises? Text messages? The tire marks from the grass? Pictures of my swollen eyes from crying? What? I could give you more detail than any fake story ever could. This is legit my life right now. I'm in shambles. But for you that's been supporting me and sending me private messages, thank you. It truly means the world to me with all the advice and wisdom. That's all I have for now. I'll probably be a while before I update you guys again. The plan is to move with my sister, and try to get the divorce finalized uncontested. Again, thank you all for the support. It's truly helping me get through this awful time. Right now, I feel like I failed. I failed my grandpa, my grandmother, Fido, and my daughter. This could have been avoided if I left a month ago when I had the papers. My sister was right. And honestly, I've come to the realization that if this is what me being a good Christian feels like, then I don't want to be one anymore. Update 2. My mind is scrambled at the moment and I am entirely lost on what is next for myself. Communicating my story with all of you has been very helpful, so let's get into this update. The day after my last update, my sister Abby, her husband, his brother Eddie and his son Junior showed up with the U-Haul to officially move me and Elena. Looking out the window of the hotel and seeing the truck made everything seem real. I was officially leaving. We dropped Elena off at her friend's house so that she can hang out with her for a while and say her final goodbyes. Well, actually we just didn't want her to witness anything crazy. A lot of you recommended a police escort, but my bill stated that he carries and doesn't think we'll have any issues. So I said okay. I was praying that my husband was not home and that we could just move everything out smoothly and without any fight. Honestly, I wasn't ready to see him and didn't want to have any conversation. But just my luck, I see his car sitting in the driveway. The car that he used to tack Fido for me. I know it sounds ridiculous to say, but looking at the car made me break down before I could even get out of the car. Anger took over me, and all I wanted to do was to smash the car with a baseball bat. Abby hugged me and calmed me down. She reminded me that I am taking this step for Fido. That God has a new plan for me and is time for my next journey. I collected myself and we got out and went inside. Soon as we entered, my husband heard and ran down the stairs screaming my name. Before I could even react, he had his arm around me hugging me saying that he was so happy I was home. I looked at my Bill and Eddie and they took him off of me. He looked at everyone here and saw the U-Haul out front and asked me what was going on. He knew something big was happening as he hadn't seen Abby in years. Abby instructed Eddie and Junior to start packing and loading all of Elena's things and looked at me and said, "Sis, it's time. Let him have it." I took a deep breath and told him that I am leaving with Elena and going through with the divorce. Before I could finish, he started sobbing. He dropped to his knees and began begging to hear him out and to not make any impulsive decisions. He started pleading that he was sorry. How he loved Fido and would never do anything to hurt him. He said he realized the severity of his drinking and everything he's done after that and doesn't want to be that person anymore. He ran to the kitchen and came back with these papers stating that he was enrolled in rehab and is starting therapy soon. He said he made a promise to God and now he cannot break that promise. He said, "I'm back. The man you married is back. The devil has left me and I want my family back. Look around the house, not a single alcoholic drink in sight. Please don't leave me." My sister grabbed me and gave me a look. When my sister gives this look, I know she means to stay strong and to not fall for it. Honestly, I was starting to melt, so I needed this from Abby. I then let him have it. I will try to quote everything I said to the best of my ability. "I think it's so good that you realize your mistakes in this and you're doing the necessary steps to get better. But it shouldn't have taken you killing Fido to get to that point. I want to forgive you, but I cannot. That was the final straw. For years I begged for you to get this help. Years I brought you rehab and therapy brochures and even offered to go with you, but you turned me down. You forced yourself on me, beat me, and manipulated me for years. If you didn't want to stop for me, you at least could have stopped for Elena. Honestly, I need this space. I want a divorce. Please don't make this hard." He started sobbing even more. He said he knows he messed up but God has forgiven him and I need to as well since I promised for sickness and health in our wedding vows. Starting we can see the Christian therapist and work through our issues. He then said, "Please don't go butterfly." Him calling me butterfly hit me. The reason he did is because, during one of our first dates, we had a picnic. A butterfly ended up landing right on my hand and let me pet it. He told me that butterflies can detect a kind soul, and since then, he called me his butterfly. He hadn't called me in years, so it hit me. I started to feel like I was making a mistake. I started to cry and walked upstairs to help the boys pack Elena's room. He tried to follow me but Abby stopped me and began to scream at him. She said, "Enough is enough. Once again you're using your narcissistic manipulative behavior to get your way with her. Do you even hear yourself? It's her Christian duty to get away from you. You're pathetic. You fucking raped her, beat her, and tore her down every chance you get, and you want to say she said vows. You made vows too. But did you follow yours? No, you fucking didn't. God gave you and her both a wake-up call at the same time, and hers was to leave your ass. From there, he got angry. He started calling her a sinner and that this is why the family and church shunned her and that she's trying to play with my head. Bill stepped in quickly and said yeah, because a wife-beating, cheating Christian man, a hypocritical deadbeat mom with an alcoholic stepson are model Christians. My Bill is a big man, so my husband obviously wasn't going to argue back. He tried to follow me again, but he was blocked, so we went outside and called my parents and his parents. By the time we finished Elena's room and were halfway through my stuff, our parents came speeding in. My dad ended up blocking the U-Haul with his car and they came rushing into the house. They immediately started yelling at my sister, saying that she was getting inside my head with her demonic persuasions and stated that I'm making a mistake. They said they didn't raise me like this and my husband is sick and needs to be by his side. This made me cry even more. My sister is so much stronger than me. Even 4-on-1, she held her own. She screamed at them that they're all pieces of shit and have no idea what it means to be a good person. She stated they love to say how someone is going to hell but don't realize that hell is being around them. Junior ended up calling the police as the screaming got louder and everyone in each other's faces. All I could do was sit in the corner and cry. I admit, I'm weak. My husband tried to come comfort me but I pushed him off. The police ended up arriving and they separated everyone. My mom tried to tell the police that Abby and her husband are trying to kidnap Elena and I and that they're going to traffic me. I quickly told the police that this was not true and that I was trying to get away from them. I explained to the officers the situation and that I am trying to leave. They ID'd everyone and instructed everyone to move out of the way and to let us move the rest of our stuff. My husband told the police that this is his house and he can have his guest where he wants. He got in the officer's face and stated that I am not leaving. The officer told my husband that he ran his name from his ID and he is already out on bond, and if he doesn't want to go back to jail, then he needs to get out of their face. His dad had to grab him to move out of the way. At this point, I didn't even care about everything else. We only had about half of my things, but I just wanted to go. I grabbed the rest of my important things, my grandparents' chest, and all of Fido's things, and I instructed my sister that I wanted to leave. She told me that I have the right to all of the things that I owned. I told her I didn't care and wanted to leave. We closed the U-Haul, and as we were trying to leave, my husband kept pleading with me to stay. He begged me not to take his daughter from him. Our parents also begged the same. They said I am robbing her from having a relationship with them. I remembered what all of you said, that I need to get her as far away as possible. I quickly got in the truck and we started to leave. As we left, my sister flipped them the bird and we took off. We picked up Elena and we hiked the road. We didn't make any stops outside of food and gas. I am now living with my sister, enrolled Elena into a new school, and I am still struggling. I've been getting blown up in messages from everyone trying to get me to come back home. I haven't been able to eat, sleep, or do anything productive. I am so grateful for my sister and Bill. They've been so supportive and have taken great care of me and Elena. They told me to not worry about working at all until I am ready and focus on getting better. I've enrolled in therapy, and one of the commenting Redditors from my last post connected me with a group in my area for women who suffered from abuse. These meetings start next week, so I am nervous to face all of this. I received emergency custody of Elena due to her father's recent charges. Elena, on the other hand, has been surprisingly well. Yesterday, my sister and I sat down with Elena to explain everything. Let's just say all of you were right. Elena told us that she was aware of her dad's drinking and what she used to do to me. She stated that she'd pretend to be asleep when he was on his rants and often saw me crying. It broke my heart when she told me she saw me put makeup over my bruises several times before. What broke my heart the most was when she told me that she talked to my mother about it. My mom told her that men are providers, and it is our duty to support him, regardless of his behavior. She told her to just ignore it and respect her father. The last thing I want is for my daughter to think this is okay. My sister gave her a long speech about loving herself and how her father's behavior was not okay. Elena expressed her sadness about Fido, and I believe with everything, I will be enrolling her in therapy too. The thing that she said to Elena that stood out to me was, your mom kept lighting herself on fire to keep your dad warm and not valuing the fact that she's getting burnt. She's so right. I've never valued or looked out for myself ever. I am adding it clear to her that she can still talk to her father and family if she pleases and I won't stop her, but she insists she doesn't want to. Honestly, I am a mess at the moment. I don't know how this divorce is going to go. I do not know how strong I will remain. I don't know how my husband's conviction will be. I don't know anything. This will be my last update for a while, as I simply want to work on myself for a while. I will be deactivating all of my social media and blocking everyone supporting my family or husband. Thank you to everyone who has been commenting and supporting me through all of this. The amount of help and resources you guys have provided me has been great. For all of those still claiming this is fake, please say that to my depression. I am so sorry this update is all over the place. I am so mentally drained right now, so I can't really think straight. Update 3. It's been almost 8 months since I've touched any social media or logged into Reddit. I feel I owe you all an update. I can tell you it's been up and down. For starters, I am still living with my sister and honestly, it's been a breath of fresh air. It's weird being in a house full of love and understanding. Elena has loved her new school and made a lot of new friends. I've still been in therapy and support groups trying to get myself in a better headspace, but it's been hard, terribly hard. My husband ended up only getting probation and court-ordered rehab. I know, I rolled my eyes too. But I guess when your family has money and connections, they give you slaps on the wrist. We're still not divorced, as he's contesting everything. I believe he is planning to delay it as much as possible until I run out of money and can't afford my attorney anymore. But I got a new attorney a few months back, as my sister Abby's mother-in-law is a lawyer. After Abby and her husband explained the situation to her, she offered to take my case on for free as long as I promised to continue therapy sessions for myself and Elena. Right now, I still have custody of Elena as right now he's ordered not to have unsupervised contact with her due to his recent charges and abuse allegations. Honestly, Elena is a strong girl. We've never tried to block her from talking to her dad, but she doesn't want to. He FaceTimes her iPad often, but she declines. My family and husband haven't stopped trying to reach me. From getting burner phones to text me, contacting my sister, flooding my photography business email, personal email or through my lawyer. It's been nonstop. My husband goes through emotions of sorrow to anger. Telling me how much he misses me and how long he's been clean, to ranting about how much he's taken care of me and committing a sin. The same for my parents. They're all accusing me of turning Elena against them and letting my demon sister manipulate me. These messages even started turning into threats. Things took a turn about 5 months ago, back in April when I filed for full custody of Elena and a restraining order following the threats. They were all ordered to not contact me whatsoever. I thought this would be the end of it, but I was wrong. In mid-April, me, Elena, Abby and her husband were at home when we heard banging on the door. Her husband opened it, and to our surprise, it was my husband, and my parents. How did they find me? How did they track me down? Well, we later learned that I was so mentally drained with everything that I forgot to shut off location sharing from Elena's iPad. He demanded to speak to me and started screaming my name. Abby's husband told them to leave before he calls the police. Hearing his voice made me break down and I once again, as weak as I am, cried like a baby on the couch. In hindsight, I know I should have taken Elena and left, but I was just frozen in fear and trauma. Abby, the fierce warrior she is, went to the door, pushed her husband out the way and went to town on the three of them. She told them to get the fuck off her property and that I don't owe them a damn thing. My mom got in Abby's face and the two had a screaming match. My mother rose her hand to slap Abby, to which she responded, "I wish the fuck you would. You're no mother to me, I'll fight you like a stranger off the streets." Elena was crying terribly, and I yelled for her to go to her room and lock the door. My husband tried to get inside to grab her, but Abby's husband pushed him out. He started to scream for me to talk to him and that he's sorry and he's changed. I don't know, seeing him on his knees crying and screaming for me made me go to the door. I took a good look at him and honestly guys, he looks bad. He's lost weight, his clothes were dirty, he had bags under his eyes and face red. But most of all, he was sober. I'm staring in his eyes, and I can legit see the sorrow and remorse. I know he loves me and for a second I was ready to hug and forgive him, but then I just think of Fido and hear Elena crying at the top of the stairs, and for the first time in almost a year, I realized I didn't love him anymore. I told him I wanted him to leave and to please just allow the divorce. My parents turned their anger towards me and started yelling at me about forgiving him. Abby stepped in immediately and put their focus back on her. I told him I was done, and I gave him so many chances to turn around, but he didn't. His sadness then turned to anger, and he got up and started screaming at me to get my ass outside now so that they could leave. Wow, he really hasn't changed. This just sent me into a full breakdown by this time. I guess the neighbors must have called the police because they came speeding down the road 4 cars deep. I don't remember much after this as it happened so fast, but my parents and husband all got arrested for trespassing and violating the restraining order. I felt like this whole situation derailed all my progress and I found myself in the hospital that night as I had a complete mental breakdown. I simply I don't take this anymore and I want to be free. I just want this divorce. I just want my parents to disown me like they did Abby and leave me alone. I just want Elena to have a normal childhood. I am tired of being tired. I spent about a week in the mental hospital and quickly contacted our attorney. Let's just say this whole ordeal isn't going to help him in the divorce or custody battle. In July, Abby approached me about a rehabilitation resort program for spouses that have been abused. It's a 30-day program to go and receive extensive therapy, relaxation and release from our troubles. I was hesitant to go considering how expensive it was, but Abby's mill offered to pay for the entire thing and insisted. It ended with them forcing me by packing my bags and pushing me into the car. They insisted on taking Elena to Disney to help ease her mind and get her to her therapy appointments virtually. I returned about 3 weeks ago and it was the best thing ever. I talked to so many abuse survivors and heard so many stories. So many people, men and women with similar stories and upbringings and the scars they had on them. The leader of the program was a priest and I told him about my concerns of being sinful by divorcing and he assured me I was fine because my husband was not following the way of Christianity. This honestly felt like the missing hay to unlock my stolen heart from the vault. While I was there, I met a guy, his name was Ryan. He's 35 years old and recently divorced. His wife was extremely abusive and was attempted to kill him. We talked every day and I've never felt so understood. I was in no place to date, and neither was he, but the attraction was there. Since returning, we've hung out at least 5 times and I've never been respected so much in my life. His smile seems to provide light to the darkness in my heart. We actually started painting together and I discovered that it's such a good relief. We both agreed that neither of us are ready for a relationship, but I am excited to see where this goes. I know this isn't quite the update you all were looking for, but just know I see the light at the end of the tunnel.